everybody. We would like to have Nick. We had Kravick Drive work session. Do we have anything else for next in January to the 2021 New Year?
Hi, Peter. There are no work sessions scheduled for January 12th.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to have a motion. I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of the last board meeting. Would anybody like to second them, please?
It's Kathy. I'll second.
Kathy, thank you. Second. All in favor?
Nathan, I.
Steve, I.
Kathy, I.
Douglas, I.
Leif? I see Leif. I don't know if he responded.
He did say aye.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And Nathan here too?
I am, yes.
Thank you, Nathan. And Joe, is Joe on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was sorry, a little technical, a minute late. We're going to have four concept reviews. The first will be Butternut Senior Living Center. I'll ask you, try to keep it to 10 or 15 minutes for review and give us time to ask questions and get to understand your projects better. So I'm also going to ask Leif to recuse himself, as I know he's involved in this. Who will be presenting for the Butternut Senior Living
project? So I'll do a general overview and then in turn open up for questions from the board.
Thank you.
Who was speaking just then?
Tom Douglas. I'm one of the
Thank you.
principals with the Butternut Senior Housing Project.
Thank you, Tom. Didn't hear your name and I don't see your face.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we feel that we've got a project that is compatible with any type of long-term development options that are going to come forth with the development of Shoppingtown as we move through the years on that. What we've proposed is senior level housing. Some of the words I would use to describe the project is upscale, concierge level service, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms with rooftop terraces. From the concept rendering that you see before you, we are able to park it rather easily. There'll be garage units, and we've tried to design this so that it's compatible not only with the long-term use of Shoppingtown Mall, but also for the residential component that borders on Kenny Street. So if you look at the 32 unit up along Kenny that overlooks the cemetery, what we were thinking there is we would ramp that up, probably start with a 2-story there at the entrance, and that building probably would be no more than maybe 3 stories high. So it doesn't tower over the residences along.
Tom?
Yep.
Tom, excuse me for a second. I got one of our board members was having trouble getting into the meeting, Joe Muller. Can you look at that, Stephanie?
Okay.
And I'm having trouble.
Yeah, of course.
Stephanie, I'm also having trouble getting the video on the plans.
I would ask you to, if there's any way you could like reorient your screen. That is frequently the culprit. Is everybody else able to view the screen? You can nod.
I can't. I did it. Didn't do anything.
Yes, I see it, Stephanie.
Okay.
I can see it. Make sure on mine it's on the gallery view to see it.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I wanted to.
Okay. Continue.
Please.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. So as far as the finishes, I'm going to defer this to the Leaf, but kind of what our vision on this is a masonry component, more than likely some type of stone, a cultured stone, and then transitioning into some type of a veneer panel for an accent as we go up to give it a rich, sophisticated look. And then as far as the amenities, what you would see in any upscale type of apartment complex. And that's really the basis of the project is concierge level service. So let me just open it up for questions and let's go from there.
What is your main entrance? Is it off Kinney?
Yes, yes. We actually have two means of egress, one off Kinney and then the bottom section, which is the larger of the buildings that will empty onto Butternut.
I guess I'm bothered that you pull into the access drive and really the first thing you see is the end of a building and the garages. I think the composition works much better over on Butternut and would suggest you try to do something similar on Kinney.
Yeah, Steve, this is Scott Freeman, Keplinger Freeman Associates. I certainly agree with your first comment, but I would like to preface the site plan before we get too far into it. We took some contours off the internet and we have not invested in a site survey yet, but we're in the process of topography. And once we obtain topography, we really look forward to working amongst our team and with the board. And this is one of those projects, we're not in love with this site plan. We understand this is a first step, and we really need updated contours to get involved with the architecture, to have that building come off Kinney Street. As Tom stated, we want to be sensitive to that neighborhood and have lower buildings and buildings that have architectural details that tie in with the neighborhood on Kinney. And as you step down into the site, it might change a little bit. That first building, which is an L up on Kinney, that could step down, and we could play around with the angle and how those two buildings join. So we're really at the first point where we have a surveyor online to go out and take some topo, and we really look forward to working through the design details of the project. So I don't know if anybody saw. I'll go through Mark Parrish's comments rather briefly. Water is available, so that's something we can work through. The fire department preliminarily agrees that a through road can work. We can change the configuration. Sanitary is available. There's some coordination to be looked at, and we certainly will once we have the topo to see where gravity goes and doesn't go. And stormwater is, once we get the topography, the next thing to do is get Chris Kinney out there. We'll get some infiltration tests done to see if we're looking at a wet pond with open water, or infiltration, which would be a little more aggressive. We won't have to go as deep and be more preferred, in my opinion. So we're just at the starting line. So we want to continue to hear the comments. So comment one, Steve, we got it. Let's work on a better entry.
I want to pick up on something that you touched on, Scott, which was, I think, lower buildings and right. Being respectful of the adjacent neighborhood that's there. I know it's kind of a transition between what, Shopping Town hopefully eventually will become, and what that neighborhood is that's right adjacent to it. I know across the street is the cemetery, but in terms of jumping from, smaller, 1 or 2 story houses, which are along that street, up to a 4-story building right on the street might be kind of a dramatic change. I'd like to make sure that as you're doing this and exploring it, that you're showing us a street elevation, and how that size of the building might impact, the transition down into that neighborhood.
No,
the southern building off Butternut, I have less of an issue with. It's just the one kind of up off Kinney.
One of our thoughts, and this is very preliminary, but one of our thoughts was at that entrance, we would probably be no more than 2 stories along Kinney Street.
Okay. Well, I mean,
That would make it more compatible.
Well, and the other thing is that our architect, Leif, who is made the suggestion that once we get the topo to do a 3D space study, not necessarily a full rendering, but show what the mass spacing and the scale of the building would look like at the upper site and the lower site. So that's something we realize that needs study.
Is there any way that some of the woods could be maintained along Kinney there?
Again, I think I wouldn't take anything off the table, but I think once we get the survey, I'll put that on the wish list, if you will. But I would think along Kenny 1, we're talking buffer. I think that's great. But the other big conversation I think you would like to have and we would like to have is how do we connect this senior campus to the community? How do we connect this to the future open mall parcel that's going to become something else? How do we connect this to Butternut, Kinney, and the community? So we have some work sessions, and we're open to ideas, and we're ready, but we do not have the answers tonight.
One of my initial thoughts is the topography, and you've mentioned that you need to get the survey done, Scott, to get that information. But I wonder if the topography and the hill, because that's a fairly steep incline.
It is.
Is there a way to use this topography to your advantage with your layout in terms of scale and kind of working with the hill with these buildings?
One of the things we did is the larger scaled buildings are down along Butternut Street because those houses are probably a good 4 to 5 stories above the topo where those apartment units will sit on Butternut. So we were going to kind of utilize that and do some balconies so it looks onto the hillside rather than towards 481, if you will. And then we realized, because we're probably a project that could help jumpstart the Shoppingtown development in the future, that we would have walkways so you could traverse through from Shoppingtown down to Butternut. And then for those of you who don't know, Von Lang is owns the property, and he has proposed, as a condition of this getting approved, donating the land on the other side of Butternut, on the other side of the reservoir, the creek there, for some type of footbridge, and then you could use that as a walking trail up to the pedestrian bridge that's on Kinney Street. I think it's about 21 acres that he would be willing to donate as well as a part of this project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just like my question relating to the zoning and R3, I just want to make sure that you got to have any proposal that's what you're looking to seek is an R3 change.
Well, possibly. I can give you just a quick summary on what R3 would be. According to the regulations, I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, 4,000 square foot per unit. So you take the acreage and do the math, and this site would yield 114 units based on R3. If you took 479,160 divided by 20,000 divided by 4, you end up 114 units. And we're proposing with this plan, we're proposing a higher density of 154 units, 84 in the lower, and then 70 in the upper. So I guess if that is headed towards R3 development, I guess that's a direction we could go.
I think the next step is one we might not be willing to take, but we just want to get that on the board.
Sure.
What is the current zoning?
Current zoning is R2. It was proposed to us to take it to an R3, which in order to get the density, we would need a variance, of course. I suspect at the end of the day, we're not into the design phase of this project yet. So there's going to be numerous changes and modifications. I suspect we probably won't go over 150 units. One of the thoughts I had was on the top floor, more of a rooftop terrace type design, where those would be maybe 1,300 to 1,500 square feet. So that would cut down the number of units somewhat, and those would have terraces as opposed to balconies. More of a condominium feel than an apartment, if you will. So there is, and Andy was kind enough to call the other day when we were talking about the R3, and I said, there will be a retail component to this. It's not really for public use. It's really as a ancillary support type operation for the residents on site, maybe a hair salon, maybe some type of even a modest convenient type store. It would really be there to support the tenants in the building rather than having it open to the public per se. And when I say retail, I'm talking about probably boutique type retail that would be less than 1,000 square feet. So it's really a small, very small component.
What kind of group facilities do you have here? Is there a dining hall? Is there a recreation facility?
It's a great question, and certainly since we started discussing this as a result of COVID, we've had to rethink everything as far as community rooms, gyms, that type of thing. There won't be. It's not assisted living in any means. So we're not here to compete with Maple Downs, but the actual types of functions that we would have some type of meeting rooms. I think we do have to have some type of exercise room. And one of the thoughts we had was maybe even open it up where we had in each building a room designated almost like a hotel room, where if you lived in the building and someone wanted to come visit you and they didn't want to stay with you, they could stay and rent that room overnight. And that would be maybe one per building per se. And that's as a result of the, thinking through with this whole COVID situation.
That makes sense. As long as it's ancillary to the building itself and the tenants in the building, not no external signage and whatnot.
No, you would have to, it would only be accessible to if you were, under lease there as a family member.
We have discussed this on a very preliminary basis, and there is support. Certainly, I think enough to continue pursuing this. Who else would like to add? We've heard from Nathan and Doug. Steve, Joe, Kathy.
Yeah, I'd like to ask, what market are you looking at?
I'm sorry, Kathy, if you repeat that.
What market?
Tom, what market are you looking at? Like what's your price range? How many 3 and 2 and 1 bedrooms, etc.?
Okay, great question, Kathy. The 1 bedrooms would be more of a design function, that if we had space that didn't quite fit the floor plan for a 2 bedroom. But for the most part, if you were to take a weighted average, we're going to be about 80 to 90% 2 bedrooms with a few 1 bedrooms in each building. And then I was thinking in each building we would probably have 4, so a total of 16 rooftop type units with terraces. Rents would be north of $2,000 for a 2 bedroom. A 1 bedroom would be slightly less than $2,000. And I anticipate for the rooftop terraces, depending on the size, we would be north of $3,000 on that. And really where we've gotten a lot of our marketing research is we've watched what's happened downtown, and talking to the Pioneer Group and one of the principals, they were kind of taken back by the fact that there didn't seem to be a ceiling for what people were willing to pay in rents. They wanted what they wanted. In fact, some of those units, they ended up going through the wall and making a single unit that otherwise was a double unit. And, their rents are in the 3,000 plus. And what they have found is people don't really want to be downtown right now. It's not what it was, in the sense that they realize that parking is problematic. It's difficult for family to visit because they have to park on the street. A lot of the amenities, and what we're talking about when I say amenities, we all know what Wegmans means to everyone. There's not a Wegmans downtown. There's just not that type of lifestyle yet in an urban center that DeWitt provides. So we feel like people have driven by DeWitt to go downtown to live in an apartment. We're trying to bring those people back to DeWitt and make this area, the Shopping Town Mall area, downtown DeWitt. And this is a great way to jumpstart that by having upscale residences.
I think that's what we want to hear.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, this is Jamie Williams, representing Holmes King Colquist Architects. I work with Leif. I'd really like to emphasize that we see this project as a starting point to establish a level of design excellence and aesthetic that could be piggybacked by, hopefully, by the Shoppingtown development. And we really see this, obviously we see the Shoppingtown development, as you do, as the new center of DeWitt. I mean, it has every potential to be the real town center of DeWitt, and we see this as a substantial housing component of that overall development.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the market at the perfect time, both externally and then internally with what's going to happen at Shoppingtown.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to make comments from the board? I think we're very encouraged, and we look forward to further presentations and collaborative efforts.
Well,
So we look forward to a work session.
yeah, we would welcome the opportunity to sit down with a work session. We're excited about the project, and thank you for the opportunity tonight to introduce the project. We think it's an exciting project, and I think it's a very compatible project for what the vision is for Shoppingtown Mall. So thank you again.
Let's get our survey and our soil testing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds great. And we'll be issuing a set of concept level comments that cover all of the requests of the information that we'd like to see next to carry this further, such as just some concept, architectural, like aesthetic examples, you know, just really high level stormwater and grading. And I'll point out a couple sections of the code, you know, regarding the development of pedestrian facilities. A better presentation of the stormwater facilities is more of a community amenity, if you will. And once those are in, I think that we can schedule you for a work session anytime in January.
Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
The National Grid, Collimer Road. Who do we have representing National Grid?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Wiesel.
Ben,
Everyone can see me and hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Okay, so my name is Ben Wiesel. I'm an attorney for Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation, doing business as National Grid. I have about a 7-minute presentation. Please feel free to ask any questions. I'm here tonight to review our proposal to make minor modifications to our existing gas regulator station located at 6430 Collimer Road.
Excuse me, Joe Muller, one of our, Stephanie, would you please make sure he gets in? He's looking for permission to get into the meeting.
I'm in, Peter.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I apologize.
No, not a problem. We're here to talk about some minor modifications to our existing gas regulator station located at 6430 Collimer Road. These modifications will allow National Grid to conduct federally mandated safety inspections of our existing underground natural gas transmission system in DeWitt. As part of my presentation, I will briefly describe the benefits and purpose of our proposed work, our construction details and schedule, and other relevant environmental considerations. So first, the benefits and purpose. Since 1993, National Grid has operated a 3.45-mile natural gas transmission system underneath the town of DeWitt. National Grid's transmission system runs underground from Collimer Road to Carr Street and provides natural gas to the Carr Street generating facility. The Carr Street generating facility, in turn, generates nearly 105 megawatts of electricity that approximately 100,000 New York State homes and businesses use and rely on. National Grid is committed to maintaining its natural gas transmission system in order to provide safe and reliable service to its natural gas customers. And for the past 27 years, National Grid's transmission system in DeWitt has provided safe and reliable natural gas service to the Carr Street generating facility. In order to ensure that we can continue to do so in the future, we're here tonight to propose a minor modification to our existing gas regulator station located at 6430 Collimer Road. Our proposed modification, which I'm about to describe in detail, will also allow National Grid to comply with the Federal Pipeline Safety Improvement Act's requirement that transmission pipeline operators must monitor and inspect their gas transmission infrastructure. Our proposed modifications, which are detailed on the drawings we submitted, include the installation of approximately 21 feet of above ground pipe within the existing station fence. The pipe will serve as the entry point for a programmable inspection gauge that will travel approximately 4 miles an hour through the transmission system. We call this new portion of pipe a launcher. The launcher will sit on a new concrete foundation, and the associated pipe will have a top height of around 4 feet, and an associated relief valve will have a top height of around 10 feet above ground level. After we install the launcher, National Grid will conduct internal inspections of our natural gas transmission system in DeWitt. During these inspections, which will occur once every 7 years, a programmable inspection gauge will travel through the 3.45 miles of the transmission system in DeWitt, looking for signs of corrosion or defects. If any corrosion or defects are found, they'll be repaired before they impact safety or performance. In addition to installing the launcher, we will also be replacing 22 feet of existing underground pipe, installing 16 feet of new underground pipe, and replacing a section of existing fence in the same location with the same top height. There will also be 0.05 acres of clearing necessary to build a temporary construction access road at the rear of the existing fence, the installation of temporary matting for a travel lane outside of the existing station, and the installation of temporary matting for access to the adjacent parking lot to the west owned by Thermo King, which we will be using as a construction marshalling yard. All activities will be conducted on property owned by or under easement by National Grid, and there will be no permanent expansion of the gas regulator station or the fence. We're hoping to start construction in April of 2021 and complete construction in October of 2021. And although the regulator station is located in a residential district, we do not anticipate any impacts on local residents. The station is set back over 500 feet from Collimer Road and is not visible from the road. The closest homes are located to the east of the station on Russell Lane and Yvonne Lane. They're located at least 320 feet from the station and are separated by stands of existing mature trees which block their view of the station. To the west of the station are the Thermo King and the Bull and Bear Roadhouse, but they will also not be able to see the station due to existing vegetation. And we are proposing no site lighting as part of this project. Now I'm going to briefly talk about a few environmental considerations, and then we can get to any questions you might have. So in terms of wetlands, the regulator station is surrounded on the west and east by a New York State DEC wetland. The area of the wetland has been confirmed via delineation. No new fill will be placed in the wetland, and construction impacts will be temporary. The project will have no impact on cultural resources, and we received a letter of no effect from SHPO. And in anticipation of this project, we made submissions to the New York Natural Heritage and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and their response confirmed that no records of rare or state-listed birds, animals, plants, or significant communities on site. Vegetative clearing will be conducted in compliance with the restrictions in place for Indiana bat and northern long-eared bat. And finally, with me tonight are Karama Med, our project manager, Noah Cantro, our project engineer, and Steve Haller, our environmental consultant, who are all available to answer any questions you might have. And if not, we thank you for your time. But please feel free to ask questions.
Here's just my question, and if you can indulge me, can you give me the names again of who was on this call?
Absolutely. So my name is Ben Wiesel, and I'm the permitting attorney for National Grid. I work for National Grid.
Okay.
Karama Med is the project manager.
Okay.
Noah Cantro is the project engineer. And Steve Howler is the environmental consultant, and we're all National Grid employees.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question regarding the vegetation that obscures the view from the neighboring residential property. Is that vegetation on your property?
I don't believe so.
I can take this one if you want, Ben.
Please.
National Grid owns a large parcel around the station as well as the adjacent transmission line to the east of the station, electric transmission line. What looks to be cleared area to the east of the station is all existing 115 overhead transmission lines. You can see the structures right there. And then to the east or to the west is all either early successional or wetland vegetation, Phragmites. I believe we don't own anything that way outside of the electric transmission.
What about to the northeast, that woodland?
I don't believe that is our parcel. I believe once you get past the transmission lines, that is no longer ours.
So you're not really taking any so should those woods disappear through other development or whatever, then the neighbors have a view of your overhead piping, right?
Steve, I'm actually bringing up the property map from that area, and it appears that the surrounding residences own a stretch of land that abut this National Grid parcel that's highlighted in blue.
Okay, so we must have permanent easement on the electric line. I did think we had that in fee. Apologies on that. If in fact those trees are removed, the current location of the piping we're putting above ground will be actually behind everything else that is already in place at the station. It is at the rear of the station, the south side, and we're taking about 3 to 4 trees to the outside of the fence to the south side of the station. So away from the direction of the residences.
Thank you.
Thanks. I have a question in regard to your access road coming off of Collimer. We'd like to talk about among ourselves about cleaning that up, possibly with just the entrance, maybe some curving to make that more visible with a little better signage.
Karam, is it something that we could do?
Yes, that's something we can, take care. Sure.
Yeah, we're not interested in blacktopping the whole driveway, but just the entrance so it looks more in keeping with the surrounding area.
Sure, no problem. We can improve the sign and we can improve the curb cut. Absolutely.
And the signage as well.
Sure.
Did anybody else have any other questions?
So are they working within the fence in area as it is on Google Maps?
So the above ground piping will be within the fence, and the below ground piping will be outside the fence, but obviously it's below ground.
This is Noah Castro, engineering. We will have to take down the southwest corner of the fence there just to facilitate access for construction. We plan to replace it with the same style and in the same location as the existing fence once construction is completed.
I have a question. Sometimes these facilities can generate noise, hissing noise. Is there any reason to believe that this facility does or would be based on these changes that needs to be measured and verified?
So as I mentioned, the testing that we're referring to occurs once every 7 years. And then the noise will only be, any noise associated with that testing will only last for a day or two. In terms of the existing regulator station, Noah, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no change to the noise, and we've received no complaints in the last 27 years.
That's correct. There is existing equipment at the site, but I'm not aware of any noise complaints previously.
Yeah, if you've been on the site, suffered pretty heavily by distance and vegetation.
How
Any
about
other
any
questions?
additional smells or odors?
There is potential for that when we do the testing every 7 years as part of the venting process of the launcher. During those events, we're aware of that well ahead of time and notify our gas emergency line, so they're aware that we are venting gas from those locations in case anyone from the public should happen to smell it.
We also typically send out mailers to the residents. So we would send out mailers to the residents on Yvonne and the other road to the east, just so they're aware if they smell anything, not to be alarmed.
So you answered my question. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Well, I think just proceed with what we've talked about, the entrance signage, and anything else, Stephanie, that you want to see?
I have a short list of legibility considerations and just the presentation of the drawings. And it's just sort of cleaning things up for the department standards. And so it's really when the code enforcement officers go out into the field to do the inspection, it's very clear to them what has changed as a result of the project and how the details are also listed on the page. So it's no real substantive changes to what you've proposed here.
We'd be happy to make the changes that you're referring to. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, if you make those changes and get those in, Nick, when's the next submission deadlines?
The next submission deadline is January 4th of 2021.
Yeah, if you'd like to get this out of the way, you can submit then with those changes that we've discussed, and we can get an approval to you.
Peter, I have a question for Mr. Wiesel. It's not related to this specific project, but it is concerning the non-conformity to our light code of their electrical substations. A couple of years ago, you were in, and we brought this to your attention, and you said you would be coming back to us with proposals.
I believe we resolved that issue. I believe that. I apologize. I missed the last part of your sentence.
At several of National Grid substations in the town, your lighting does not meet the town code requirements. And you had said that work was underway to bring those into compliance. Has there been any progress made?
Yes. So if I recall, there were two stations that were, and again, this is unrelated to this project. But
right.
There were two stations, two electric stations in the town where I believe there were curtains that needed to be placed on the bottom of the lights to make sure that the lights were facing down. And I believe we have completed that project, but if you'd like, I can confirm that and send an email to Stephanie confirming that.
Well, the one in question, in my mind, is the one that is seen from 690 behind the DeWitt Town Commons, that substation. Very bright light. You see it from 690.
I will confirm it. I definitely remember having those conversations with you, and let me reach back out to the team, and I'll have an answer for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Excellent presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. One more thing. Crom just mentioned to me that we are subject to Article 7 approval. So in other words, the New York State Public Service Commission is also reviewing and will be approving, we hope, this application relatively soon. Crom, please feel free to state your concern. You were concerned about potential changes.
Oh, sorry, Ben, that was me that typed that.
Oh, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah. This line was certified when it was installed in 1992 under the New York State Public Service Law, Article 7, for natural gas transmission lines. As such, we do have to, anytime we make a change to the facility, notify them and receive approval from them. So I wanted to make sure with the curbing and all that, I don't believe anything would be superseded by the DPS, but I just wanted to make sure it was brought up that if they have any issues with us doing that, it may become an issue.
Okay. I would think not, but
right. I don't think it'll be an issue, but I'd rather out there rather than us having to worry about it on the back end.
Okay. Thank you for the disclosure.
Yep.
Okay. Verizon Wireless Data Center.
Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Hi, this is John Dunn. I'm with DLB Associates Consulting Engineers, and the project is the expansion of the existing Verizon switching facility at 132 Creek Circle. And let's see if I can bring something up here. Can you see my plan there?
I can.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Always impressed when that happens.
I know, it's like magic.
So the intent of the project is to expand their existing switching facility to the west of the site. Currently in that location is their administrative office space, and the intent is to remove that space to make way for the new equipment switching that is going to support their 5G efforts, and then to also install or build a new administrative office building, much smaller than what is there today. And which, if you can see here, this is coming off the Creek Circle into the drive. And then there's the start of the facility right there. And we've got the drive down along here. Got our parking. Our main entry would be at this point, and the net addition in square feet to the facility is 7,000 square feet. The majority of the build is on that existing equipment building. Let's see here. As far as the schedule goes, we were looking to get started building in the spring of 21 with an approximately 12-month schedule of construction. And there are besides the addition of the square feet, we did have a topic that we wanted to talk about on the parking. And for that, I'm going to ask my civil engineer, Nathan Spence, to join in and just give a quick discussion on that, and then we can get some questions.
Yeah, just before we move off the building, but it's actually very tied in with the parking. So the 7,000 square feet addition, is that equipment? Is that what I heard? How much is equipment? How much is office space?
So the office space is approximately 4,500 square feet, and the equipment is approximately 15 to 16,000 square feet.
Okay, and what about the number of staff that you have on hand, or how is COVID related to this? Is some of this remote, or these staff that come daily, 8 to 5, are any shifts? Can you give us some background as to the operational?
Yeah, so they do have 3 shifts, 24/7. On the off hours, it's a small crew, maybe 1 or 2 people manning the control room. And during the day, there's a potential for 12 to 15 people to be on site during the day, coming and going.
Now, will you need, this is maybe a dumb question, will you need how much more than 12 to 15 parking spots? And is the ability to put some in reserve? I mean, you got plenty of parking out there now.
Yeah. So for the parking, I am going to ask Nathan to chime in here and address that one. You there, Nathan?
Yeah, I'm here, John. Thanks. Yeah, so like John was saying, on a day-to-day basis, there is not the need for even the 65 spaces that are out there currently. So there definitely is. It seems like we are overparked for what is actually needed, even in a worst-case scenario where we've got even potentially more than the 12 to 15 on a worst-case scenario type of basis. But yeah, like John was saying, we've got the 65 parks out there currently, and the building right now It is a 7,000 foot net addition, but like he was saying, we're demoing part of the existing building and then expanding. So we're actually converting some of that administrative space, to some of the more technical space, and then the administrative space is getting smaller and being relocated. So, yeah.
Do you have any, if you find a common denominator for number that you want to returning some of that parking to green space?
Yeah, so what we're showing right now is some parking that would definitely be reserve parking, for overflow, as some grass, pavers as an alternative, kind of a green, low impact development type scenario, because we're not increasing the impervious surface by much, but we are, if we were to leave those paved, we would be increasing the impervious surface some. And so this would, help us, reduce the amount of impervious surface we're adding from a stormwater perspective. And then would also provide some of that overflow parking. So I think what we have shown here, in terms of number of parking, and I don't have the number in front of me at the moment, but it would be more than sufficient for what would be needed. And then I know in the previous development that they had some area reserved on the south,
the south side, the whole
and
path.
on the east. And obviously we're not touching that area. So that previous design of where they could, have those reserved spaces still works and still would be operational should that be needed. So.
Okay. I open it up to, do you have more in your presentation, or would you like to have some questions from the board?
With respect to the parking, I just think internally we need to do a parking analysis of what was there, what had a variance, what was in reserve. That's something that we internally have to address to figure out exactly where we're going to go with this parking, if we're going to recommend for a variance or additional in reserve, or so there's a little homework for us to do.
Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, I think this has got to be charted and placed onto a drawing so that we can clearly see what's existing, what's in reserve, what they're proposing, what the final counts are.
Okay. Do you guys would want us to prepare that and send that in as additional information? That'd be helpful.
That would be helpful for starters, and then we'll have to do our own research as well.
Sure.
We want to get a new benchmark basically for what this is and can be. We certainly don't want any more parking, or you don't, to pay for more parking than you need. And we want to work, collaboratively with you on that to make sure that we have as much green space as possible, but that you don't end up short of parking, or if you do, it's in reserve and you just have to request it.
Yeah, I agree.
And Andy or Nick, I guess the building is currently, its current use is warehouse. Is that what we were talking about on Tuesday?
No, it's a switching facility. So it's their cabinet equipment to handle traffic, handle their voice data.
Well, I'm looking at it in terms of our town
our categorization.
use. I think it's shown as warehouse.
Yeah,
I'm wondering that if, someday Verizon vacates and all of a sudden we've got, this large building that gets converted to office, how does that impact? I mean, I know it's cheap to use, but.
I think if I'm not mistaken, and Nate chime in, we were discussing this, I think we classified it as other commercial offices. I don't think it was necessarily warehouse. I suppose that you actually could take it that way based on how much of that space is there and how much of this area is actually storage of processing units.
Yeah.
And if they changed it to office, this is going to have to come back to the planning board for site plan review anyhow, and they'd have to do it.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at, trying to calculate the parking of, what's office space versus what's warehouse.
I think that data would be useful on the drawing as well, the ratio.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was interesting with your shifts, that two of them are just one or two individuals on the two non-daylight shifts.
Mhm.
Any other questions for the rest of the board?
Is this project requesting a variance for a setback, a yard setback as well, if I read it correctly? It looks like the corner of the building is inside of a setback. Or the corner of the addition, I'm sorry.
That is a Verizon wireless setback, I believe, that they have, that we place on our plans. John, do you have more information on that?
I do not, but I don't think we were asking for
No,
that.
I don't think that's a town of DeWitt setback.
There's a lot
Is that
of
what you're-
space out there. I don't know where the boundaries are, but
Yeah.
it's pretty wide open.
There's a 30-foot building setback, and there's quite a bit of clearance between. It's actually right along the edge of that grass parking area. So it's consistent with that.
Okay.
And next, if you could present the plans for the building expansion.
Let's see what we have here.
I have those available as well if you'd like me to share screen.
Yeah, could you do that? That would be great. Thank you.
Stephanie, to go back to the parking while you're pulling up those plans really quick. Previously, the approval for this site incorporated parking calculations for both office space and industrial manufacturing. So those parking counts were 1 for 150 for some office space, and then 1 for 500 of floor area for the industrial uses. So that's just a little bit more history for everyone.
Thank you. That certainly helps why there's so many spots out there.
Yeah, that's helpful, Nick. We weren't sure how they came up with the spots they had, so.
Yeah, so it's the existing facility is a 1-story facility, and it is red brick, and the new additions are also going to be 1-story, and we're going to match the red brick that's out there.
And I'm bringing this up to gauge the board's reaction on the revised west facade, which is the approach into the site.
Okay.
And I just point this out because I know that there's some utilities that are also being located outside of the building enclosure here as well. And what I noticed when I look at the plans is that it's not a really strong approach into the site. When you kind of come in and off of the Creek Circle driveway, it's sort of like you're looking at the side or the rear of the facility. And I know that this is a very utilitarian structure, but the board may feel that there's an opportunity here to just sort of change the perception in the presentation.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is those downspouts and conductor boxes on the outside of this building. What's the rationale on a new building of this size, 1-story, for doing a move like that?
With the downspouts?
As opposed to internal drains.
Yeah, so having piped water inside the switching facility is not something that Verizon likes to see in their buildings, just from a protection of the equipment standpoint. And then getting from that that exterior facade out over to the underground, we were not able to hit the elevations. That's why we have them coming down and onto some splash blocks out on the outside of the building.
Okay, I believe it's one of the Town of DeWitt design guidelines to have all of that drainage on the interior of the building where possible. So I think that there's an understanding that it really is not advisable in this case. But if there's any way to mitigate that, be it by vegetation, I think that's an easy one, or even like a different type of treatment.
Would enclosing it in the
Yeah.
same type brick facade at
What
downspouts?
kind of architectural
suffice?
chase would work?
Okay.
Is this building actually going to be striped like it appears on this elevation, or is that just a function of the resolution?
I think that's the resolution.
Yeah, I'll zoom in a little bit further. You'll have to bear with my poor screen here.
Yeah, there's no striping included. No Verizon striping.
That doesn't help very much, but this is a very dense hatch pattern here. And there's really no like sort of decorative finish.
Yeah, it really is just to marry up and match up with the existing facade.
What are the openings? I think it's on the other direction, Stephanie. In the elevation. What do those represent? Maybe it's the top.
Some of them are some exhaust louvers. I think there's some light fixtures that are on there.
So in terms of cooling or cooling tower, is there any new infrastructure related that is visible or not?
So the existing admin building has a couple of rooftop units and a half a dozen small air-cooled condensers. The 2 rooftop units are going away, and the small air-cooled condensers are being relocated to the roof of the new admin building, and screening is going to be provided so that you can't see those, similar to the screening that's up there today. And there are at the grade level on the outside, there is a lineup of outdoor air handlers.
With respect to the screening, that should be shown on your building elevations and material called out.
Yes, yep, it will be.
If you can also dash in the approximate size, if you know the equipment, make sure that the equipment's dashed in so that we can understand what's on the roof.
Will do.
Stephanie, what else do you have?
Yeah, that's really it for now. We'll be issuing a set of comments. There was a lot of detail that was provided in your submission, so we'll be speaking to some of the more technical items as well. And it will outline the next steps for submission. And I'll try to have that issued by tomorrow, if not early next week.
Oh, thank you very much. That next submission, did I hear on the earlier ones, is that January 4th?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you.
The accounting firm for Hammersmith?
Yes, and Terry Horse from Terry Horse Landscape Architecture here with, I believe, Nick Fighter is here as well as owner representative. So we're proposing additional parking to the property at 6690 Hammersmith Drive. This is for a proposed accounting firm where they are proposing to have about 17 accountants, and they would like to have enough parking that each accountant would be able to have a client at his desk. At the same time, obviously during busy seasons such as tax season. So that is why we're asking for an additional parking spaces of, what do we have? We're required, there's existing 30 spaces there using the code requirements of 9.5 by 19. We're proposing to have 40, so we're an increase of 10. Per the code for offices, we're required to have 34. So here we're proposing angled parking, 60-degree angled spaces with a one-way drive coming in for the additional parking. That is so we can meet that 20-foot buffer along the Hammersmith Drive driveway or road. So we don't have topo yet. So it's not, we don't have a grading plan, but I would think that the grades would grade to the back of the property where the drainage easement is, and that's where we would handle some stormwater as well. So I think that's pretty much basically what we're doing. The building there's no addition or anything like that proposed for the building other than interior renovations.
We've looked at the plan. We're looking at some of the traffic patterns and maybe a way to make that more economical and save that buffer or some of the trees in the buffer because they're very they're beautiful.
Yeah. It's unfortunately that is going to have a big cut into those buffer trees. So right now I think I'm at there's requirements by the code with an 18-foot wide drive and that, the 9.5 by 21 angled parking spot. I can see what a 45 would do, but I think we start losing parking, once we get a narrower angle on it.
I open it up to the board and some questions they may have or ideas.
I think we talked about it a little bit on Tuesday. The combination of one-way traffic and two-way traffic makes, for a very confusing traffic flow through the site. Find a way to eliminate that.
Well, we'd either go all one way.
That was the thought.
Yeah, so we'd have angled parking for the whole thing as opposed to two-way and one-way. So we can look at that.
We thought you might pick some space up if you went that route. It makes sense for such a small office.
Yeah. The only concern is that once we start going angled, you lose space, horizontally. You know what I mean? We start, instead of a 90-degree, you can have, let's say 10 spaces. When you start angling them, you need more space in that for length, across the width of the parking spot.
But
so
you pick up that area where the double, where the two-way is, pick up some space.
Yeah,
there.
that's true. Okay. Well, I'll I didn't look at that, but we'll look at that and see how it affects our numbers.
Stephanie, did you have any other comments?
Yeah, that was really the main one. I am concerned about some of the, during the site visit, there was some pooling of stormwater on the site. And I think the grade difference between the edge of the pavement that you have, like right around that section of the parking lot, it really seemed like, depending on what grade you were trying to achieve with the edge of the pavement against those trees, it didn't seem like there was a chance of success that those trees could be saved through there. So
yeah, I didn't think they would be, Stephanie, either. We'd have to, add, replace. So.
Right.
I know that your desire on April 14th to have 17 clients with their 17 staff, but I don't know, there may have to be some compromise there relative to the number of spots you need and the amount of green space that we'd like to see.
Yeah, that's really kind of the challenge with the growing office. As you can imagine, not every appointment, even with a couple, is just one car. Oftentimes it's both, each person is coming from work and they're bringing two vehicles with them, in addition to during the winter when the snow piles up and the lines become less visible, so people start parking farther away from one another. It becomes a deal breaker if we don't have enough parking for both staff and clients in that situation.
But let's see what Terry works out relative to the one-way diagonal and how we might preserve as much as possible and still give you the parking spots you need.
Okay. Do you know, I don't know, Stephanie, if you know, is that drainage easement associated with a larger stormwater facility master plan for the development? Because there's no stormwater ponds on this site.
That I can probably have, if you give me a second, I can pull that up on the Eagleview mapper here.
I don't know if Mark Parrish chimed in on any of that yet.
No, this is a really small project and Mark Parrish will not be reviewing it.
Okay.
And just quickly while the plans are up, to define the edges of those stalls, especially through a one-way circulation, a pretty standard requirement of the board is to see these end spaces be curbed in granite and turned into a landscape island. Really, anytime that there's a curve in the pavement, that should be defined by granite curbing. And that's one material request that I will include in the comment letter that I'll be issuing. Just a moment. Right. All right, so I'm not really seeing a whole lot of information on drainage in this plan right here. What that might be.
Yeah, you can put that in your comment letter and
Okay.
let them address it.
Mhm.
And clearly, there's some standing water when we were there.
Yeah, that's right.
Throughout that buffer area. So something needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, as we were looking at it too, and I've been over there with contractors who, install parking lots. It certainly seemed that there was a lot of pooling water in the existing parking lot as it was today. So we had actually talked about all that water draining off as we look at the picture to the right-hand side. It gets into kind of a marsh area over there, but that seemed to kind of be the natural form of the water. There's a pipe, if you zoom in on the property and you zoom in on that parking lot, there was after the fact, it looked like they dug up across from the left to the right, put in just a pipe that takes water from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, and actually looks like a large speed bump. If when you're there, it's quite unsightly. So that's one of the things we were also looking to take care of, and that, so we'd use this as an opportunity to really clean up that parking lot as well, which seems to have, seen its better years so far.
Is that parcel, I can't tell, is that your property or is that other property? The one where you said the water naturally drains to?
That is into that kind of, if you look on that right-hand side up to that yellow line there, you see where it's kind of brown marsh there. That becomes like a marsh kind of area, then it moves over into that pool of water. I'm not sure if it stays in that marsh area that's there along that yellow line, or if it's able to get over to that pool. That's unclear, what the elevation is there.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right, Terry, you'll the submission time if you want to move this along.
Yep, thank you.
And then we're going to do our own homework on anything else that's there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got 4 discussion items for the board. I'll go, Andy. I don't know if you wanted to. You or Nick regarding the 5009 Campuswood Drive and the painting and what we know now on update.
Yeah, so we have some new plans that have been submitted, some new renderings of colors kind of ties in the sidewalk, the stone, the facade, the trim paint has changed. It actually is looking pretty good, I think, as far as modifications. The applicant has also supplied a letter from their paint supplier that it kind of delineates a little bit of the issue with whether or not it can be removed or not. So we'll let them discuss that. And then there was some parking issues that we needed to discuss. There was not any intentions of actually getting any kind of an approval tonight, but really just to kind of keep the project moving forward and getting some positive feedback and direction for the next meeting.
So as I understand it, Andy, that paint cannot be removed, or if it removes, it will cause irreparable harm to the brick?
Correct.
So I really, excuse the pun, but don't like being painted into a corner here on this. Anybody else want to comment? It's very frustrating for me personally, but.
Who made that determination that it would damage the brick? I'm sorry.
Purcell Paint.
Well,
Actually,
they're not an
it's
architect, they're a
PPG.
paint manufacturer.
The manufacturer PPG actually wrote that letter.
Okay. It just troubles me if anybody wants to paint a color and they use PPG, that same paint, then we're stuck with it.
Well, how do we deal with the fact that they've painted it gray and the rest of the campus is brick red?
If I can for a second, that letter was from PPG, the paint manufacturer.
Yeah. So Steve, the way that they're proposing dealing with it is to paint it a color that is in harmony with the rest of the campus.
The whole building or just the trim? That was very difficult to decipher from that drawing.
Andy?
I'm not sure. I'll let the applicant defer to that, but it looks like from the rendering, it looks like it's a different color on the wall, but I don't want to speak to them.
I read the letter earlier and I thought it was just the trim. They were going from a light color to a darker color, a dark gray.
Yeah, this is Terry Horst. So it is just the trim that was on the previous submission, the whiter color, which was the gray owl, and it's shown here as the white. That would be the new proposed color called Dash of Pepper, which is more of a brick color. That the gray of the brick, the painted brick would stay the same color. Just in this rendering, it's hard to see.
I don't see how this achieves the uniformity we want with the rest of the complex.
Yeah, I misunderstood that myself. In terms of, I thought that they were painting it to be in compatible. But I'm just one vote. What does Steve, you've made your comment. Nate, Doug, Joe, Kathy, Mike.
So PPG is okay with adding another coat of a different color to the brick if it went that direction, right?
I guess they said it would be impossible to take it off without.
Right, but to go over what's there.
You could add.
Certainly add more layers. That's for sure.
Add more to it, and if that was the direction we went, my biggest issue with this is durability, because it's really difficult for long term for that paint to stick. So I don't know this product well enough, but I don't want to see a peeling building either in 5 or 10 years. So somehow we have to be able to get through this with a better idea, a level of confidence that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, regardless of the color is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with Doug.
Yeah. Nathan, Leif?
I'm just trying to.
I agree with Steve, and however they can make it, if they have to paint it to make it, I don't know how you do that. That's an architectural item, but yeah. I don't know how you get it to match the rest of the buildings by painting it.
I would too. I'm not, I'm opposed to leaving it gray.
You're opposed to leaving it gray?
Yeah.
I think
Dylan
in all
Runs.
honesty,
You hear me?
I think we're gonna honestly make the issue worse if we're going over this existing paint with a new paint that's trying to match brick on another building. It's just my 2 cents.
You're entitled.
I think that's maybe the conclusion they wanted us to come to, Nathan.
No, and I don't disagree with you, Steve, but I'd rather not try and make the problem worse.
Well, I don't think we know if it's going to make it worse, quite frankly.
Yeah,
I think aesthetically it would probably make it worse. To Doug's point, I think we have a long-term durability issue to deal with paint over brick, either adding another layer of paint on top of this one.
Mhm.
But I think aesthetically, I don't think we're going to get anything that's going to match the adjacent buildings or what the rest of the campus look like.
I think
yeah.
with that darker trim, it's toned it down. And when they put that the cultured stone on the bottom, which as I recall was kind of a gray and taupe combination, at least freestanding, I think the building is going to look fine. I mean, I understand it doesn't match the others, but
yeah.
I don't know. Do we have any power at all when people do things like this to cite them, to find them, to, you know? It seems every so often we get somebody just comes through and does what they want to do, whether they realize it or not. But what
they are in violation, Kathy. That's
right.
That's why they're here.
What can we do when someone's in violation is my question.
Well, you can make them change it, but this is what we're discussing, is it? Does it?
No, but I'm saying if they can't change it, is there some reparation?
Well, I guess to Nathan and Doug's point, I don't know. This is truly out of ignorance whether another coat that would be more problematic, a different color, or would the one coat on the brick be better and forestall healing? I don't know the answer to that.
I guess another option, Peter, would be if we could find a trim color that starts to get back toward the brick color as more of a unifying color. I don't see how that dash of pepper unites anything.
Well, technically the dash of color is the color of the trim in the windows.
Yep.
So it's hard to see that in this rendering. I think maybe it shows better in the photos.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, barely.
Barely. You got to speak up.
I got a bad mic, I think, on where I'm at right now.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, the trim color would be the exact color of the window frames. When you look at the way that building's done, I went out and took a close look at stuff there. And once we start painting brick, it's I'm not sure. You've heard me speak before about it being a campus flavor, but painting brick now to look like brick is, I think, a wrong move. I think the gray is probably, I'd be leaving it the gray and say, hey, I'm just a different thing. Get that trim color into the window planes, because the brick is proud of the window frames, and all that trim band is set back in the plane of the windows. There's a nice reading of that trim color, getting it dark so it belongs with the colors of the campus, coming down into those window planes. So it actually reads the rhythm. If you look at that profile on the right-hand side there where the roof steps out over the edge there, you can see the relationship of how that works. And I think that's actually not bad. I mean, he believes that customer will be there forever, which it may be, and I don't know the answer to that. And the team, our whole team, has done a wonderful job adjusting and adapting to it. And what I said is you can't take that anyplace else because we are the team.
I would like to throw out, I understand the board's animosity with this, but this is not a 2 or a 3-story brick office building. This is uniquely different than a lot of the buildings in that complex. And by the approval of the hotel and the Hilton Garden Inn, we've already started a transition to different buildings. So I'm not trying to make light of it, but I am trying to point out that this is uniquely different than all of the office buildings predominantly along the back of the property.
Well, I could be convinced, Andy, and with Leif and Doug, and in terms of the trim being maybe a trim of both the window and the other trim being a tie into this, if that's a compromise. I guess I'd
As
like to
another, sorry, I was just throwing this out there as a potentially unifying element. Would it be like amenable to, instead of doing the cultured stone along the base, change that to a standard brick? And then do something more, right? This clearly not
stand alone. Like
No.
what Blake was saying, that's what I was trying to say, but he explained it better. But it is what it is as its own entity. And you know what Andy just said, I had said a couple weeks ago as well. You got the hotel there, and that's almost like an off-white. I mean, it's too bad that it happened, but I think we need to make what's there now look the best it can be as it is.
How do we prevent more of these buildings from changing and the whole place looking like a circus in 5 years?
You can't, Steve. I mean, if, you know, unfortunately this happened, you know, they were doing an interior alteration and it changed on the outside, and we came to light on it and put a stop work order on it when we did some inspections on the inside. But, you know, you take a 3-story office building like that, you're going to notice it pretty fast, but there isn't any mechanism.
No. Okay, let's we're gonna move on with this, and I guess I'll go with it with not me personally, but in terms of at least showing us something with the trim, Terry, that captures what we've talked about to try to preserve your situation and tie in with the colors.
Peter, can I make just one small suggestion here? If what we're talking about is trying to keep this building as harmonious with the rest of the campus, but we can't do that with brick, are there any other architectural elements that we could pull from the other buildings back into this one? So for example, looking at the Make-A-Wish building right now on Google, and it has wood features. It's got some wood banding. Would there be an opportunity to bring back a wood rain screen or a wood panel or some sort of wood detail on the facade of this building to kind of help tie it back together? Just as an idea, an architectural idea to kind of weave the campus back together, and then leave the brick, you know, as is. Something to consider.
Yeah, I think that the brick's going to have to stay as is from what I hear, and we're just trying to make it as compatible both to itself and to the surrounding.
Okay, so if we could, if we look at the trim colors, and if the cultured stone is fine, there's several pallets of the cultured stone on the site, and we're hoping to be able to get those off and clean that site up a little bit more. And with the weather that we have, I think we're wondering if we can move forward with getting the cultured stone on.
What are you talking about with the cultured stone? Doing a full wall?
No, just the bottom 2 feet.
See, I don't see where that helps the building at all. It just adds another element, puts another line across the building. I would think if you could do the cultured stone on an entire wall, that's what this building is. It's all about solids and voids, not about introducing a sill and cultured stone. Thing is a mess.
What's the best way to get to an endpoint? So we have several architects, several ideas. Anyone?
Well, I'm not convinced that the letter from PPG that the paint can't come off. Take paint off all the time. Half of downtown was painted brick and it's all been removed. I mean, This brick is in a lot better shape than buildings downtown when the brick was soft. This is hard fired brick.
Well, and this is also a paint product that's not, it's a paint product specifically for brick that seeps, that goes into the brick itself. So that's why it's harder to get out of to remove it. Not like it's not just paint that they may have just painted the brick buildings downtown with.
If I can assist, Peter, I think the threshold question, and is it one that we can put to a straw vote? Are we going to be working with this color of the brick the way it is now, or are we going to talk more about it coming off?
I think the color has to stay.
Yeah.
I agree.
I disagree.
Taking it off might do more damage, and then you really got a mess.
So Joe's maybe a keep. Who else we got? Leif?
I'm on the keep the paint on the brick. Not my, I started this the other week saying no, but as I look at this, I'm now in the camp of we got to keep that brick painted. Also, the base behind I went out there. The base behind the what they're showing the stone zone now has been prepped for that stone. That's all been scratch coat, parts coated over that brick too.
Peter, you have do you want to weigh in on that question? We lost Peter. Well, who else didn't we get?
All right.
Doug?
Darn, you got me. It's a very reluctant to keep the paint. I'm very reluctant to, but I don't know that we have another option, honestly.
That's what I got to, Doug, too. I'm reluctant, but we don't really have much of a choice. I don't think right now.
I understand, I respect everyone, and believe me, I'm just doing the words. I do not do the architecture. So if everyone's kind of like the one thing that we've concluded today is that the paint color is going to stay. It sounds to me that the next issue is how does, like Peter said, how do we make this building compatible with itself and also the surrounding buildings? There's a strong, I hear a strong dislike of the cultured stone, that might not be the right element, and that we have to send Terry back to the drawing board. Am I right on that?
No.
Yep.
Did someone say no?
I agree.
Is there any more specific guidance that we can give her? I am not the one to, again, I'm writing it down, but I'm not sure I understand it. You got your wood, you got your cultured stone, you got your bricks. Somebody chime in to give some direction. We'll see what everyone thinks.
Jamie, my comment about trying to pick up some of the materials for some of the neighboring building was exactly that. Just trying to harmonize it. I really don't like the cultured stone look. I would agree with Steve. Just don't add more components to a building. Let's just keep it as simple as we can.
Maybe we can paint the trim something similar to the dark brown. I don't know. We need a lot of colors to look at.
I'm back.
Oh, you missed it, and we've solved everything in your absence. But
oh, that's great. That's I really appreciate that.
Actually,
my notebook wasn't working. I was charging my iPhone, and the iPhone overheated. I apologize. So where do we stand with this
so
now?
the majority agrees that the color has to stand, though some reluctantly. Now the question is, how do we make the building compatible with itself and the surrounding buildings? I'm hearing pick up material from the neighboring buildings. Cultured stone is a no. Does everyone feel that way about the cultured stone?
Frankly, I'm take it or leave it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I can go either way.
Okay.
The trick is that that lower band has been prepped for a cultured stone, which means it's got a
Right.
hard coat already on the
Yeah.
brick, and that brick was in relatively bad shape at the base anyways, from what I saw walking around it.
Yeah.
And my other comment on the color is, you know, the bronze color is the color that woodwork should be, because then that pulls off of that would match the existing windows, which are a bronze aluminum, a bronze clad window, which is pre-finished, which means you're not gonna paint the aluminum windows, and then you get the harmony of that plane being the same and letting the brick stone zones read the way they're supposed to read as elements inside of the framework of the woodwork above.
What is on the screen now? What are we looking at? Is that the way it used to be?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
Such a much better looking building.
Well, I think we get back to that bronze, which matched the windows for the trim and
Yeah.
all the woodwork. That
Yeah,
solves,
I
that solves
agree,
90%
Lace.
of my
That
problem.
would go a long way.
Yep.
A
And
real
then,
I agree with that.
bronze.
then the
Okay,
base really doesn't matter.
All right. All right,
Like,
guys.
when
Bronze,
you get,
bronze woodwork. Got that. What else?
The trim, try the trim in.
Yeah, the
Bronze.
rendering doesn't do it justice. When you're out there in person and you go bronze on all the woodwork, it pulls the windows in. It offsets the painted brick, gray brick zones just like it does. If you squint at this picture, you're seeing brick that's regular. Now it's a gray brick. It all starts to work together again. The
Is
problem
this building,
Terry, do you
is it being re-roofed?
Terry,
Yeah.
It's fully roofed.
It is re-roofed. So the new roofing looks more like the rendering than this.
right.
Yeah,
Brown.
it's a grayer. Yeah.
it's a gray base roof.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, you looked
So
at
has
that,
it been re-roofed?
that base take brick instead of the cultured stone, maybe a gray brick.
It could, yes. It could take anything that's a cultured type of, a thin veneer program. They have all kinds of different materials besides the stones. It could be besides the
So-
cultured stone.
so is everyone against the cultured stone, and we want her to look at something that is different along the bottom, more
Yeah,
compatible?
let's take a quick straw vote on that. I gotta move this along, or I'm gonna
Gray
be
brick
out.
base.
Pardon?
Gray brick base, as if it's just a
Right.
play off the brick. So it's part of
Right.
the same rhythm
That's
instead of
what
a
I'm
change
thinking.
material. Becomes a step out detail of brickwork. That's the answer.
Nathan, Doug, Joe, weigh in.
I would go with that.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. Yeah.
Show it to us.
Yeah,
See
and then
some
find
dates.
some samples.
I think we just have to
Okay.
limit the colors and
Yep.
and materials.
Get it back.
I'm
to the
sorry,
stone
Nick,
finish.
can you repeat that, Leaf? I didn't write it down.
You'll get that in the comments.
Yeah.
Terry.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right.
I would think they'd do a mock-up,
Yes.
just so you can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we do. I mean, the culture stone that they have is out there, and it does have its gray elements in there. So, I think they had some of that up too. But
No.
This is about generating a two material palette for the primary facade elements. We have brick elements and we have the trim elements.
Right.
I agree with that. Okay, well done.
okay.
Okay, Peter, I just wanted to step in and clarify that this was an informal discussion topic. This wasn't provided full set for review or anything. I can issue a message
Yeah,
to this effect, but I won't be doing a full comment letter.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get that out through Nick or Andy.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I want to number 7, the discussion regarding planning board consultants. I've talked to I think most of you, but we have 3 consultants. The first I'm going to ask is to appoint Jamie and her firm to 10% left. Okay, to another year as our planning board attorney.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Well, second.
Yeah,
Everyone seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Also,
She has to
I'm
deal
gonna-
with architecture next year, though.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
All right. EDR. We've had some discussions, and they're going to make some changes to their agreement. I've reviewed their agreement. I haven't had Jamie's comments on it, but it's similar to last year's, with the exception that there's going to be a little bit more hand off to Nick, and that they're going to basically, unless it requires, there'll be one person at every meeting unless we need more at our discretion. And so that cost should come down. But again, it depends upon the number of applicants we have. And the other one is that they're going to assess, where possible, during meetings to the applicant cost reduced impact to the town.
Peter, I thought the town was going to continue to take this planning consultant job seriously and look at having a town employee. That was what you told us a year ago.
Yeah, we are looking at way.
And measure.
And Nick's hopefully going to be one of those people, but right now there's too much on Nick's plate, too much on Andy's plate. My feeling is that we need to move forward with this for at least one more year. I'd like to make that motion, and could we have a second, or if there's any?
I'll second.
Nathan? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Steve, nay.
Doug, aye.
Steve, nay.
Okay, 6-1 carries. And the last one has to do with O'Brien and Gear. What my proposal is, it's been 50 years. I have discussed it with some members of the town board and our liaison, Carrie Mannion, and I've always appreciated the level of quality of work that O'Brien Gear has, but I think it's time to do a RFP. It doesn't mean that it will change vendors or firms, but I think it's appropriate and prudent to do an RFP. It won't be based on price per se. It'll be based on not just cost per hour, but it'll be based on resources, staffing, and their ability to have to take the institutional knowledge or keep it that O'Brien Gear has. I propose to do a RFP over January and February and put that out to firms that we would feel would be appropriate.
Peter, who would be evaluating the responses? And
the responses would come through the planning board and anybody we might want to bring on to help us review if we needed it. This is a planning board, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, purview.
Correct.
Responsibility. So
Correct.
the only requirement for the town board is to pay the bill. Right?
Like they pay ours.
So it would be what I'm requesting.
Such a deal.
I haven't had my donuts in 10 months.
I know.
I know, we're out of.
That's right.
It hasn't helped my weight either, because I've been
There
still
will be
buying
back pay. There will be back pay coming.
So
Yeah.
my proposal is that we go on a month-to-month basis. I have talked over this with Gary, excuse me, with
Mark.
I was talking with Gary before, Karen Relly, and he understands and is willing to do this on a month-to-month basis, and then we make a decision sometime at the end of February or early March.
Where's this coming from? The town board?
Yeah, I'm getting. I've told you all along. I don't have any that some members of the town board would like to see this go elsewhere, and I said I'm not ready to move it to another place unless we do a full RFP and we're able to look at this in a very objective and good manner. It may be that we stay with O'Brien and Gear, or maybe there's something else out there. As I said, it will not be done on price. It'll be done on based on the talent and the resources of the firm.
As a point of reference, how many years have we had Jamie's firm?
20 years.
20 years. Was it Joe Jerry?
Okay.
Was it before you?
So you got 30 to go.
If
So
you
that's
got
the motion.
30,
Can
I've
I have a
got 30,
second to the
Steve.
motion?
That's the deal.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Unanimously carried. Listen, I thank you all.
Who made the second?
I want
please?
to. I know that there's a planning board schedule, but I before I go off the air here, it's been an amazing year. I think 2021 is going to be
Excuse
even more.
me, Peter.
Yes.
Before you sign us off, were we not going to move the Kravick Drive project forward
Oh,
with the resolution?
where the heck is that? Where was that?
I was afraid.
Oh, there it is. I passed that. I'm not signing off yet. So Kravick Drive, we wanted to move that to the overlay recommendation or an overlay for a Kravick Drive project, mixed-use project, and at the same time continue with the architectural site plan and the further detail but to keep this going in a positive direction.
I think we need more information in order to make our recommendation to the town board.
We've had 3 or 4 work sessions, Steve. I'm going to disagree with that.
Yeah, but I, the work sessions have been very narrow in scope. They've been concentrating on mostly the architectural design.
Steve, what additional information are you looking for? I mean, we can't just leave it open-ended.
We haven't discussed site drainage or anything like that.
Well, those are technical details.
Have we seen the second building?
These are technical details that we will discuss. But the overlay is the concept. It's not a approval for the project.
Yeah, Steve, if I can just chime in. It's just, if you remember the way we set this up, the only thing that we would do is we're basically saying this is a suitable area to invoke the overlay. And in concept, this might work, but it is no guarantee they're going to be able to do what they've proposed. In fact, there are quite a number of open issues. A lot of open issues. It's just, hey, does this look like a kind of a good place to do this, and with this particular land and this configuration, and should we invoke it?
Was it on our original maps?
It was close. It was close. Shopping Town was.
I believe so.
Pardon?
No, we had something at Bridge Street, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes all the way down Bridge.
Yep.
I thought
It's on
it
the
was the other side.
edge of the corridor.
Yep. All right.
So that would be the extent of it. Peter, do you have the motion there? Because I can't pull mine up right now.
I don't have it here. I'm sorry.
Hey, Nate, do you have it on your computer that I sent you yesterday?
You read it, right? Did everybody read it? I read it.
Yeah, I read it.
The motion is presented.
Yes.
Okay.
And I
did
made
that
the
get
motion.
sent? I'm sorry. I didn't get it.
Oh, you're the only one who didn't get it. Yeah, I probably
Well.
left you off purposely. So the motion is that we recommend to the town board that they invoke the overlay, the mixed use overlay, so that it can be applied to this area. Subject to everything coming to the planning board.
But going back to the planning board for approvals.
Okay, sounds
I
good.
made the motion, and may I have a second?
I'll even second it.
All right, Doug.
You'll even second it, Doug. There you go. Let Doug second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Steve, aye.
Peter, aye.
Doug, aye.
Yes, for anybody that's interested, this parcel is in the overlay.
Okay, thank you, Nathan.
Thanks.
Kathy, aye.
I knew across the street was. I wasn't sure.
Kravick Drive is the line.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense then. Good work, overlay district, folks. Did we get everybody? You got everybody's vote? Jamie?
Got it.
I think it's important to tell the town board that it's unanimous. And
Yes.
somebody reach out to developer. Let Mr. Courtier know. We will see you all next year, and thank you very much for all that you've done to support the town and the planning board.
Peter, before you sign off here, do we have to approve the 2021 planning board schedule?
I don't know. I defer to Jamie.
Yes, we can do that, and that was sent. Take a motion to that effect. Did anyone have any discussion items? Are we good with our November schedule next year?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kathy likes it, I like it.
Yep. Yep, like,
All right.
And
Well,
don't go, I have one more thing.
Thanksgiving again.
Okay, there it is. Who wants to make that motion?
I'll move
I'll
it.
move. I'll
Yeah.
second.
Second, Joe.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Doug, aye.
The last thing is the issue has come up with respect to Shopping Town and the bankruptcy court and whether they can lop off the Chili's piece, and it's part of the bankruptcy court's compromise with them. So I have said this board is not going to obstruct anything. Just get us a subdivision plan, because everyone's asking questions. I'm like, just get us a subdivision plan. So Peter has and Andy and I have discussed it, and if they get us a subdivision plan and we need to have a special meeting, we'll let you know, even if it's between some other meetings that we have in January. Because
What's the rationale, Jamie?
No, this was a bankruptcy negotiation, Steve.
Yeah, the bankruptcy court has said that they will basically approve this plan, but the Chili's is going to be lopped off, and then there's some sliding scale of who gets money.
I can enlighten. It's like $3.5 million to Moonbeam off the start. They get the parcel that Chili's is on, and they're depending upon what price the auction and the developer pays. They could get nothing, or they could get X more money. Moonbeam, I'm referring to, but
right.
The start of the deal is 3.5, and they get the Chili's site. And we certainly don't want to give them any more than that. But that's not our call, nor would we want to obstruct that with everything else that's at stake.
Right.
The one paying parcel also.
Pardon?
It's the one paying parcel
that's making money.
Yeah. All right. I thank you, Stephanie. Could you stay on the line? I just have a technical question with regard to not my battery, but the
Yeah, of course.
certain screens came up and certain screens didn't. I just want to ask your advice. Thank you all. Have a great
Motion to
holiday.
adjourn. Who's gonna move?
I'll
move?
make it.
Kathy.
Yes.
Second.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yep.
Same to you.
Holidays next year.
Nathan,
Thank you.
Leif, good luck with the project.
Yep.
Okay. Good riddance 2020.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Bye.
Stephanie.
Hindsight.
Bye.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone. Peter,
Night.
I'm going to stay on, and I'm going to kick a couple people's off if they stick around.
That's okay. I can stick around. We don't have anything to hide.
Yeah, I did notice
Stephanie?
that Tom Courtier and his team were on the call tonight as well.
That's fine. That's congratulations.
Thank you.
Stephanie, so when you first started, SG appeared in a circle. Not until the